Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Wacky Wednesday, a weekly series where we explore wacky deck ideas in both Standard and Modern, and this week we're taking a look at Thunder tokens in Standard, which is a deck built around the card Tishana, Voice of Thunder, which is a 7 mana legendary Merfolk Shaman whose power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in our hand. We also have no maximum hand size as long as Tishana's in play, and the most important part is that when Tishana enters a battlefield, we get to draw a card for each creature we control, so we're gonna try to combine that with a bunch of tokens so that we get to draw a lot of cards when Tishana enters a battlefield. Another important piece of the puzzle in this deck is Growing Rites of Itlimoc, which is a 3 mana legendary enchantment. When it enters a battlefield we get to look at the top 4 cards and then select a creature card, put it into our hand, and the rest goes on the bottom, so this can also help us find Tishana in the first place. And then at the beginning of our end step, if we control 4 or more creatures, we get to transform the enchantment into a legendary land called Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun, which is essentially a Gaia's Cradle that taps to add green mana to our mana pool for each creature we control, which also combines very nicely with a bunch of tokens, since this can help us accelerate out an early Tishana by adding a lot of extra mana, and then also helps us cast all the extra cards that we would draw off of Tishana, so that's a nice 2-card combo. And of course all we need to make these 2 cards work is a bunch of tokens, and that's what most of the rest of the deck is: accelerants and token generation. So let's take a look at the entire deck, starting out with Attune with Aether, just a nice 1 mana sorcery that helps us fix our mana by searching up any basic land, put it into our hand, and also adds 2 energy. And while we're not really an energy deck, it's always nice to have that spare energy in combination with Servant of the Conduit and Aether Hub. Next up we've got 2 copies of Servo Exhibition, which for 2 mana makes 2 1/1 Servo creature tokens, which helps us transform our Growing Rites, as well as going with our plan B of just being a token deck that tries to beat down with Angel of Invention, as we'll get to in a second. Then the other 2 drops in the deck are all mana creatures. We've got 4 copies of Channeler Initiate, which for 2 mana is a 3/4 that when she enters the battlefield we have to put 3 -1/-1 counters on a creature we control. Most of the time we will just put those counters on the Initiate itself, and then we can tap the Initiate and remove a -1/-1 counter from it to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So we get 3 uses out of the Initiate as a mana creature, and then we're left with a 3/4 that can attack nicely. And sometimes in the late game we might just put all the -1/-1 counters on one of our tokens instead, so that we can have a 3/4 right away when we don't need the mana. And we also have 4 copies of Servant of the Conduit, which for 2 mana is a 2/2, that when she enters the battlefield we get to add 2 energy, and we can tap the Servant, pay an energy to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So combined with Attune with Aether, Aether Hub and Rogue Refiner, we've got a lot of energy so that the Servant can always be used as a mana creature. Then of course we already covered Growing Rites of Itlimoc, an important piece of the puzzle. Then we've got 4 copies of Rogue Refiner to smooth out the deck a little bit. It's a 3 mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield we get to draw a card and add 2 energy. So this is an additional creature that we can find with the Growing Rites, add some energy for our Servant, and just fills out our curve nicely. Next up we've got Sram's Expertise, which is a 4 mana sorcery that creates 3 1/1 Servo creature tokens, and we also get to cast a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from our hand without paying its mana cost. So the obvious combo with Sram's Expertise is to have a mana creature on turn 2, then cast Sram's Expertise on turn 3, and then put a Growing Rites of Itlimoc into play for free. We'll have the 4 required creatures for Itlimoc to transform into Cradle of the Sun, and then on turn 4 we might be able to cast it to Tishana and draw at least 5 cards, which is not bad for turn 4. Next up we've got 4 copies of Angel of Invention, which is an additional token generator, as well as just being a fine creature by itself. So for 5 mana we get a 2/1 with Flying, Vigilance and Lifelink, but also has Fabricate 2, so we can choose between 2 1/1 Servo creature tokens or putting 2 +1/+1 counters on the Angel of Invention. And then other creatures we control get +1/+1 as a static ability. So this can be a nice plan B of just being a tokens deck with Angel of Invention and beating down with a bunch of tokens and mana creatures if we don't find our Tishana. Then of course 4 copies of Tishana, which is a card we always want to have as our curve topper. and 2 copies of Walking Ballista, which is a nice mana sink, as well as being our only removal spell in the deck to interact with the opponent. Then taking a look at our mana base, we've got 4 copies of Aether Hub, we've got 4 Botanical Sanctum, which enters the battlefield untapped in the early game. We've got 4 basic forests, 1 basic island, and 3 basic plains that we can also all search up with our Attune with Aether. Then 1 Glacial Fortress, which checks for islands and plains, 4 Sunpetal Grove, which checks for plains and forests, and then 3 Scattered Groves, which we can cycle for 2 mana, but also counts as both a forest and a plains, but has the drawback of entering the battlefield tapped. So that's the main deck. Now going over to the sideboard, we've got 4 copies of Inspiring Cleric, which is great against the mono-red decks as it gains 4 life when it enters a battlefield. We've got 3 negates for control matchups, a River's Rebuke, which is excellent against the various token decks. We've got a Nissa Vital Force as an additional tool against control decks, as well as Carnage Tyrant, which is also great against control, being an uncounterable hexproof creature. We've got 2 Ajani Unyielding, which is also good against control and against the more grindy matchups, as the +2 can find any of our creatures as well as the growing rights. And then 2 copies of Lifecrafter's Bestiary, which is also excellent against control decks as it can draw some extra cards whenever we cast a creature spell. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play. And this opening hand looks acceptable. We don't have anything from our combo, but we have a functional draw here with a mana creature, 2 Rogue Refiners, which can hopefully draw us into some of our combo pieces. Meanwhile, our opponent did mulligan to 5, so that definitely helps. They've got an Evolving Wilds, getting an island, so we could be up against the control deck here, as we're just gonna run out our Channeler, put the counters on itself and say go. Next turn, looking to cast a Rogue Refiner. Opponent's got an Aether Hub. Into Deeproot Champion, interesting. So definitely not a control deck, instead a Deeproot Champion deck, so we can expect a lot of cheap instants and sorceries. Given that we drew Angel of Invention, I think it's pretty easy to just run out Rogue Refiner here, using the Channeler, and then playing the Scattered Grove Stabbed. And Tishana is also a nice pickup, so we can say go. Next turn, run out Angel of Invention, or perhaps even Rogue Refiner plus Servo Exhibition. Dynavolt Tower. Alright, opponent's going pretty deep here, so they're probably gonna have a bunch of other energy sources as well, I imagine. I think we just jam an Angel of Invention and try to kill our opponent before things get out of hand here. So let's run out Sunpetal Grove, run out an Angel, and we'll make the servos. The Angel's gonna die to the Dynavolt Tower no matter what, and this way we progress our token plan. So next turn we're looking at Rogue Refiner plus perhaps Servo Exhibition, or we can save the last counter from the Channeler and only play the Rogue Refiner. Harness Lightning is gonna take out our Angel and grow the Deeproot Champion as well. Opponent's got 4 energy, and they look to be playing at least 4 colors. And another Harness Lightning is gonna take out Rogue Refiner. They do have enough energy to kill our Channeler Initiate if they want to, and in fact they do. Alright, so their opponent's got a 4/4 Deeproot Champion against their 2 servos, but they do only have 1 card left in hand, which is the good news. Think we just play out 2 Servo Exhibitions this turn, as it's a bit more mana efficient than playing the Rogue Refiner. So let's attack for 2. And then play double Servo Exhibition. And run out the Sanctum. Alright, so we've got 6 servo tokens. If we can find some more lands and run out Tishana, we should be in a good spot. Opponent's gonna hit us for 4, we're gonna take it for now. We can always try to chum block later when the champion's bigger. Alright, Servant is nice, so I think we start by attacking for 6. That might prompt an action from the opponent, and then we can run out Rogue Refiner plus Servant. Opponent takes it. And now we run out Rogue Refiner first. Draw a card. Alright, Growing Rites is also nice, but don't have the mana to cast it here. Run out Servant, so if we draw land next turn we can run out Tishana, otherwise the Growing Rites is gonna make sure that we can. Instead, a Lightning Strike on the Servant means we're not gonna get to cast our Tishana next turn, but we do still have enough power and toughness in play that our opponents can't just attack with the Deep-Root Champion unless they have another removal spell, or a blocker I guess. Another Dynavolt Tower. It's gonna grow the champion, but our opponent can't afford to attack here. Sunpetal Grove, so let's run out the Growing Rites. Look at the top 4, find an Angel of Invention, which is nice. And if we attack with everyone, our opponent blocks the Rogue Refiner, takes 6. I guess we just attack with all the servos here. And offer 1 servo for 5 damage. Transform our Growing Rites, which next turn lets us cast both the Angel and the Tishana. And there's another Harness Lightning on one of our servos. Does add quite a bit of energy. Also grows the Deep-Root Champion. Rogue Refiner on defense means we should be safe from lethal here. Alright, we got there. Didn't even need to show our Angel and Tishana there. So against the Deep-Root Champion deck, do we want to board in anything? Ajani can potentially exile it. I don't think we want anything else, so we're basically just looking at Ajani. Walking Ballista seems pretty weak unless we can kill the Deep-Root Champion before it has any +1/+1 counters on it. So I think we can take out the Ballista and try it like this. Alright, this hand looks acceptable. We do have our entire combo here if our opponent doesn't have removal for our Initiate, since we've got turn 2 Initiate, turn 3 Expertise into Growing Rites. Of course we do need a 3rd land for this to work, and our opponent can't have any removal for the Initiate, which seems unlikely, but still a functional hand. And 2nd Initiate's also not bad. Forest Mountain into Deep-Root Champion on schedule. Let's run out Initiate. There's an Attune. And I imagine our opponent will have a removal spell for our Initiate here. Yep, there's the Harness Lightning. Just need to use 1 energy to take out our Initiate, and they get to attack for 3. Forest to draw is nice, so we can choose between Initiate or Growing Rites or even Rogue Refiner. So the most mana efficient play would be one of our 3-drops, although playing out Initiate means that even if we miss on land drops and if they don't kill it, we get to cast Expertise into Growing Rites next turn. If we run out Rogue Refiner, we get 2 draw steps to find a 4th land to just naturally cast the Expertise, although it does have to be a white source specifically. If we already had 2 white sources, I think I would go with the Rogue Refiner, just because that increases our chances of casting the Expertise through a removal spell. Given that we only have the 1 white source, I think we have to hope to resolve the Initiate and have it survive. So we'll go with that. I guess we should have maybe kept up blue mana, since that can represent a potential spell pierce. Let's see if they have another removal spell here. Island revealed. Opts, so their opponent going off here with their Deep-Root Champion and the Lightning Strike, so that's unfortunate. Alright, can we find a white source? Nope, Botanical Sanctum instead. So let's run out Rogue Refiner. Still no 2nd white source, unfortunately. Deep-Root Champion gets in. I think we take it for now. And Enigma Drake as well has a 5/4. That might just kill us next turn. So yeah, we get to run out Sram's Expertise, play out the Growing Rites, and then we're dead in the air to the Enigma Drake. I guess we can run it out anyways, just to show off, but What do we find? Angel of Invention would have been nice. Fell a little too far behind when our mana creatures got killed and we didn't hit our land drops in the proper order. Another opt. Opponent with a pretty special mana base here. Evolving Wilds and Attune does help with finding the other basics, but this probably explains their mulligans in the first game. Alright, let's go ahead and go to a game 3 here. I don't think we want to change anything. We would like to play first, and this hand is not particularly strong, but I think it's still a keep as it's functional and the Growing Rites can find us some more creatures. I don't think we'll end up cycling the Scattered Groves, so we might as well play it first. Next turn we have a Glacial Fortress. Rogue Refiner is okay. And there's a Deep-Root Champion on schedule. We could run out the Growing Rites, but it doesn't do a whole lot for us yet. So I think I would rather run out a Rogue Refiner here. And there's a Sram's Expertise, alright, excellent. If our opponent can't kill our Rogue Refiner or counter our Expertise, we should be in good shape. Dynavolt Tower and no attacks, alright, so we're in business here. Add an energy. I guess we want to attack first. Might be a little greedy here, but I don't think our opponent's gonna block. But after we cast Expertise into Growing Rites, they might block just to prevent our Growing Rites from transforming. So find another Rogue Refiner, transform our Growing Rites, and now we're in business. Opt is gonna ramp up the Dynavolt Tower and the Deep-Root Champion. And we get to untap. Alright, so now we've got to do some counting. So we've got 4 creatures in play right now, which means this can tap for 4. We've got 8, 9 mana. Alright, so we should be able to cast both Expertise, putting Refiner into play, and still be able to cast Angel of Invention. So let's, I think, put the Rogue Refiner into play, draw a card, find another Angel of Invention, and cast that as well. Making servos, and then we can attack with, I think we'll attack with everyone. Opponent blocks 1, takes a bunch of damage, and unless they've got a board sweeper here, we should be fine. Alright, so they did actually have Ajani's Expertise, double black spell, so they even get to run out the Enigma Drake, which is one of their red spells that they couldn't cast. Alright, not bad. So we might still be in trouble here. Make servos. Add 3. I guess we can run out an Attune first since we haven't played a land yet. Get an island and then play out the Growing Rites. And try to find a Tishana. Instead we brick. That's unfortunate. And say go. And there's a Riddle Form. Does not combine with the Dynavolt Tower, but does put a counter on the Deep-Root Champion. Fatal Push takes out one of our servos. Dynavolt Tower shoots down Angel of Invention, and we get attacked for 9. Yeah, I think we take it here. And there's Tishana, a few turns late, but I guess we'll still cast it. And don't want to run out the Attune first, since then Tishana would die here. Alright, so we get to draw 2 cards, find a Servant and an Expertise. So I think we need to keep the Servo on defense here to block the Deep-Root Champion, so we're not gonna attack. Opponent finds Aether Hub, so now they're able to cast their red spells. And if they just Lightning Strike or Face, then Enigma Drake and Riddle Form can get the job done. Instead it's a Harness Lightning. Might still kill us here since they can Dynavolt Tower to kill the Servo token. They're just gonna play defense with the Deep-Root Champion instead, so we'll take 7 from the Flyers. Down to 3, there's another Tishana, which I don't think is gonna help us here. We can Expertise plus play out the Servant, then have a bunch of mana from the Itlimoc. I guess we can try. Draw a bunch of cards and still get to make a land drop, but it's too late at this point. Yeah, Henne's expertise definitely was a little unexpected, but it did get the job done. I guess her opponent was packing for the tokens matchup, which we do get some incidental hate from now. Alright, sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw here, and this looks like an okay hand, so we'll keep. So what land do we want to lead with turn 1? As our opponents could be on a Grixis improvised deck here. I think we actually want to lead with a Plains, since we might end up cycling the Scattered Groves, given that we have a lot of mana sources already. Second Renegade map from the opponent into an Attune. Alright, let's run out Servant. So next turn we can run out Servo Exhibition and cycle Scattered Groves, or we can run out Growing Rites. Aether Sphere Harvester from the opponent. And there's Tishana. We want to try to transform this Growing Rites as quickly as possible. I think we're supposed to run out the Growing Rites here, since that way if we find a mana creature, next turn we can run out the Servo Exhibition plus the mana creature and already transform the Growing Rites. So let's go ahead and attune first for an island. Play the island, run out the Growing Rites, and hope to find a creature. Instead we completely brick, putting 2 expertises on the bottom, unfortunately. So that's quite painful, as if we found the expertise we would have been able to expertise into Growing Rites. So we're gonna have to do it the hard way. And yep, Herald of Anguish on turn 4 is gonna make it difficult. So we have to discard. I think we'll discard our Attune. Find a Walking Ballista. Alright, so we can cast Walking Ballista and Exhibition here, and that way we can transform the Growing Rites. And then we can even pump the Walking Ballista with the extra mana from the Growing Rites. And we can discard the Scattered Groves to the Herald's ability. Opponent cycles of Fetid Pools, and they're just gonna hit us for 5. And end of turn we should tap this for mana to pump the Ballista. That works. We'll discard the Scattered Groves. Untap, find Servant, so let's tap this for mana, cast it to Tishana, draw 5. Unless the opponent wants to use the Herald's ability, but they do not. Alright, so we're kind of coming back here. Can play out a land, play out a Servant, and get in there with everyone. Looks like the opponent has some interaction. They're gonna try to kill the Walking Ballista, so we can shoot the opponent in response here. They'll still take 4. Opponent does still have the Harvester that they can gain 6 life with. In a close race that can certainly matter. Prophetic Prism draws them a card. So besides the Herald, they haven't presented any real threats yet, which is good. They're gonna hit us for 5, but they don't have the mana to use the ability here. So we'll discard a Botanical Sanctum, I think. Draw a Botanical Sanctum for a turn. So we can run out Angel of Invention, which we can make the 2 servos, but then the Angel dies to a single Herald activation. I guess there's no huge difference between 1 and 2 Herald activations, and I think I would rather have the 2 servos left over, but it does tie up 4 from the opponent's mana and 2 artifacts in order to kill the Angel. So let's go ahead and cast the Angel here. And I think we'll try to go wide. Move to combat before we play out any more cards for Tishana purposes. Attack with everyone. And if our opponent has nothing, I guess they're just dead on board. So they need a Fatal Push, which they do have for the Servant. Down to 3 they go. And we'll play out the Servant here. And I guess we might as well thin out our deck. So I'm not gonna play out a land here, since then our Tishana would die to the Herald discard, since our opponent is likely gonna kill our Angel of Invention with the ability. But looks like the opponent didn't draw anything there, so we walk away with the win. So I think we want Ajani to deal with the Herald, otherwise we don't have any answers to it. Carnage Tyrant looks okay. River's Rebuke could be okay, but most of the opponent's artifacts draw them a card when they play them, so it's not that great. So what do we take out? Walking Ballista could be okay at taking down some Thopter tokens from Maverick Thopterists, but otherwise doesn't deal with the Herald of Anguish, so it's pretty weak. And I like cutting Servo Exhibition as it's generally the weakest card. So we're on the draw here, and this hand is pretty slow. Just have a 5-drop and a 6-drop with no acceleration, but it's probably still a keep just because we have lands and spells, and hopefully we can find some of our accelerants. Let's attune for planes. Contraband Kingpin is fine. Definitely gonna cycle this Scattered Groves end of turn. Opponent gets in for 1. And a Prophetic Prism lets them scry and then draw. And a Spire of Industry, and then end of turn will cycle. Find a Servant, that's good, and another Botanical Sanctum. So let's run out the Servants. Hope it doesn't get Fatal Pushed, so that we can play our Angel next turn. And there's a Fatal Push, unfortunately. So we're gonna be pretty behind on board probably by the time we cast our Angel. Carnage Tyrant could also be pretty good here, depending on what our opponent does. More Prophetic Prisms from the opponent. And more lands from our deck. So unfortunately we just have to say go. So at least we have some cards to discard to the Herald, which could come down here. Instead it's a PNLR. Opponents might be holding on to a Metallic Rebuke as a counterspell, but we're just gonna play into it here, since we have 2 Angels. Resolves, well, let's make some servos. And a Fatal Push takes care of a servo, that's fine. Puzzle Knot. More scries from the Kingpin. So opponents digging towards their demon. There's a Battle at the Bridge taking care of our Angel. And an attack which we have to take. Alright, time to run out Carnage Tyrants after attacking for 1. And say go. And there's the Herald. So probably gonna discard the island here. And Growing Rites is a nice draw. So we can go Growing Rites plus Rogue Refiner here, although the Growing Rites is not gonna transform quite yet. So let's start by attacking with our Carnage Tyrant, which I'll happily trade for the Herald. Put the Herald first, the Thopter second. And then in our second main phase, run out Growing Rites, which finds Tishana. And then we can run out Rogue Refiner. Finds another Tishana, and I think we do play out a land here. Even if our opponent has a second Herald, we're still fine. Instead it's a Tezzeret, the Schemer, which is gonna make an Ethereum cell, so the ultimate at -7 could be a problem. As we find an Attune. So if we run out Tishana, we would draw 3. If we run out the Angel first, then we get to transform the Growing Rites, and then Tishana's gonna draw quite a bit more. So I think we want to run out the Angel first, so then we can also run out the Attune, get one of our last basics, play out the Angel, make servos, and then we can even attack with our Rogue Refiner here. Attack Tezzeret. Opponent jumps. Transform the Growing Rites. Alright, so we're in pretty good shape here. Prophetic Prism. Another Kingpin. And will we see Tezzeret minus here to kill our Angel? We do. So we don't need to worry about Tezzeret's ultimate for a while. And Servant of the Conduit to draw, so let's play out the Servant first. And then we can run out Tishana. Draw 6. Alright, now we're doing it. Now we can run out some more mana dorks. And next turn we can cast another Tishana and go off. So no great attacks this turn. And then hopefully we can find something like an Ajani to start taking care of the opponent's creatures one by one, so that we can attack with all our 1/1 tokens. Another Angel of Invention would also be fine. Opponent's on empty. Our Cradle taps for quite a bit of mana. Opponent did minus Tezzeret to kill Tishana there. So Tezzeret's down to 2 loyalty. There we find another Carnage Tyrant. So let's just tap this for mana right away. Make a blue. Play Tishana and draw a million. Could have played the Channeler first, I suppose, to draw an extra card as well. But I think we'll be fine. Run out Angel. Make some more servos. And might as well run out Carnage Tyrant here. So I think we can attack with our Rogue Refiner on Tezzeret. I guess we can send in some of these tokens as well, just to take care of Tezzeret for good. And next turn a second Angel is probably gonna seal the deal. Opponent sacks the Puzzle Knot, makes a 1/1. So they can keep Tezzeret alive, but then they're chumping our Rogue Refiner. That's fine. So they can minus Tezzeret to kill our Angel still. But yep, that does it. Sweet, managed to go off against Grixis Improvise. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, and this hand doesn't have any of our accelerants or any of our combo pieces, but we do have a lot of our token cards. I think it's still a keep, although it's not great. Can definitely use one of our 2-drops here. Opponent leads with Fetid Pools, and there's one of our 2-drops, excellent, so we can lead with Sanctum. Channeler might die to a removal spell, as we see Gifted Aetherborn on 2. So our opponent maybe on the more tap-out control version of the deck. Let's run out Channeler. Don't have anything to cheat into play with the Sram's expertise, but we're still probably gonna run it out next turn. Of course, if we draw Growing Rites or Rogue Refiner, that would be nice. There's a Champion of Wits. Opponent discards the Scarab God and a Noxious Gearhulk, so their hand must be pretty loaded. Let's just run out the expertise here. And say go. Hopefully this is not a hostage taker stealing our Channeler, instead it's a Fatal Push, killing the Channeler, so we're not going to be able to cast our Angel. No attacks from the opponent. And Servant to draw. So we can run out Servant. And say go. Another Champion of Wits. So unfortunately we're not going to be able to attack past this Aetherborn with our 2/2 servos after playing Angel. If we manage to resolve the second Angel, then we do have 3/3 servos. So then we should be able to attack, but it's pretty unlikely that our opponent can't interact with our 2 Angels. So ideally we just find a Tishana and can just go over the top. Opponent also discarded a Vraska, so they're playing Sultai, it looks like. We're just gonna run out our Angel. Make some more servos. And I think we do attack with our Servant here. I'm fine trading it with the Champion of Wits, and I'm fine trading it with the Aetherborn. Opponent just takes it instead. Walk the Plank kills our Angel. No attacks, an Aether Hub to draw. So let's run out another Angel. Make some more servos. And get in there with our Servant once again. Don't think it's time to send in all the servos yet. Maybe next turn. 5 mana for the opponent. It looks like a Scarab God. Nope, Liliana instead. Can reanimate the Gearhulk and kill our Angel. So now we really need to draw Tishana. Instead we find an Attune. Let's get an island. And let's see, we could attack here and try to kill Liliana, but then we're throwing away 2 servos. Probably still worth it here. Opponent's got 4 blockers, so we can send in 6 of our creatures. Even if our opponent blocks all of them, Liliana still dies. It's probably fine. Opponent's just gonna eat 2 of them, and Liliana dies. So yeah, we're looking for Tishana or Growing Rites into Tishana. Just gonna take 2 here. Another Angel instead. Well, I guess we'll run out another Angel. Make some more servos. Gets Vraskas Contempted here. Opponent probably should have waited, since we could have ended up putting +1/+1 counters on the Angel and opponent could have gotten more value out of it. This forces us to choose the servos, which we were gonna do anyways, but small edges. Still don't think we attack here, since we would be throwing away a token, so we'll just say go. Hope to drag this game out and hope our opponent doesn't resolve something like a Scarab God in the meantime, since they would be able to get back all these Angels in the graveyard. A Rogue Refiner. And the Gearhulk attacks. I'm tempted to just put all our tokens in front, since that would decrease the opponent's clock significantly. but we would also be losing quite a few tokens. If our opponent has a spot removal spell, we would need to put at least 5 tokens in front, and then they're not even forced to use a removal spell, and they just get to eat 5 servos. So I think we take it at least for one more turn here, and then perhaps next turn we'll make the trade. And another Aetherborn. Well, we keep drawing Angels of Invention, which I guess at this point we're better off just making into a big life-linking flyer, since more tokens are not really gonna help against these Aetherborns, and our opponent might be out of removal at this point. So let's choose for the +1/+1 counters and say go, and now we can make a pretty decent block against the Noxious Gearhulk. And looks like our opponent was not out of removal quite yet, as they have a Vraska, which can kill our Angel. And yeah, we're gonna need to draw Tishana right now, otherwise I don't see how we're coming back. Aether Hub the draw. Yeah, I think it's too late now. Opponent gets in. Think we block like this. Eternalize Champion of Wits. Champion of Wits would also be an okay card in our own deck, since it's a decent play on 3 and a nice mana sink later in the game. So we could definitely consider running that over perhaps the Rogue Refiner. Let's draw a card and chain a bunch of Rogue Refiners. And find a Walking Ballista. Think we just say go here and then play a big Walking Ballista next turn, since playing one now is not as mana efficient as playing a bigger one next turn. Opponent attacks with everyone. And jumping here. I mean, we're not beating a removal spell anyways. But these would trade, this would jump, these would trade. Yeah, I think this is fine. Opponent does have the Fatal Push. Vraska makes a token. Another Aetherborn. And there's Tishana, a few turns late, and Walking Ballista is also not gonna save us. Alright, on to sideboarding against Sultai value. What do we want, what don't we want? Servo Exhibition and Walking Ballista seem a little weak in this matchup. I don't want Carnage Tyrant against all those Death Touchers. Ajani seems okay, and the Bestiary could be okay as well. I think that's all we want. Could bring in Negates for the Vraskas, but don't really want to be holding up 2 mana constantly, so let's just submit. And we would like to be on the play. Well, didn't find Tishana last game. We get 3 of them right now, which I don't think we can keep this. This is essentially a 5-card hand with a Tishana, so let's go down to 6. And this is more reasonable. So we'll definitely keep this. Attune can go to the bottom, but we're gonna cast an Attune turn 1 anyways, so it doesn't really matter. I think we just get another forest since we have this Bestiary. We could run out Servant turn 2, opponent is not representing Fatal Push. Also kind of like running out this artifact before playing out any creature so we get the most value out of it. But it's probably okay to run out a Servant on turn 2 just because it can give us an explosive start if we draw the right cards. For example, if we draw Sram's Expertise, we could play that and put this into play as well. Search for Ascanta from the opponent. So we can run this out. Attack for 2, and next turn we can draw some cards. and the Scribe will also help us find relevant cards. So we're putting a lance to the bottom here pretty much, and keeping all other action. Growing Rites we can keep on top. But I think we'll run out the Rogue Refiner first here. So let's attack for 2. And then play out Rogue Refiner. And then pay a green. Fine expertise. Alright, excellent. So we've got expertise into Growing Rites lined up. And then with the transformed Growing Rites we can cycle this Scattered Groves, which is one of the few instant speed ways to spend your mana besides pumping it into Walking Ballista. Opponents got their own Rogue Refiner. Let's scry and keep this on top. I think we're attacking with both and then playing expertise. I don't think our opponent's gonna have boarded in Spell Pierce here, so let's attack with both. Give our opponent less information to work with here when they go to block. Opponent does trade for the mana creature. And then second main we can run out expertise. Put Growing Rites into play. Hopefully find a Tishana. Well, everything according to plan so far. End of turn, transform Growing Rites. Another Rogue Refiner. And that's all small ball compared to Tishana. End of turn, we'll cycle this. Find a Channeler. Another Tishana will keep on top. So given that we are gonna draw another Tishana here, I'm fine with running one out rather than playing out Angel first. So let's just cast one of our Tishanas. And then we can even pay green for the Bestiary. And alright, opponent concedes. On to sideboarding. Do we change anything? I think we just keep everything the same and just try to run it back. Alright, this hand looks keepable. We've got our Initiate and our Growing Rites, we're just missing a Sram's expertise here. And Attune is a nice one, although I guess just a land would have been better there. Aetherborn, that's fine. This time we have a pretty loaded hand, so we don't really care about the Aetherborn too much. Ajani is nice. Run out the Initiate. A tapped Fatted Pools, and an attack for 2. If they don't kill the Initiate, we can run out the Rogue Refiner next turn. Alright, Sanctum is a nice draw as well, so I think we'll actually run out Rogue Refiner and then also Attune. Get a Plains, and say go. So I don't think our opponent's gonna offer the trade. If they do, I'm not sure if we want to trade, given that we want as many creatures as possible for our Growing Rites. So let's see if they attack here. They do. Alright, I think we do trade here, since Angel still puts us up to enough creatures for the Growing Rites to transform. And we found another Growing Rites, so I think we're just gonna run out the Angel of Invention here, put some pressure on the opponent. Could also decide to Initiate plus Growing Rites, that way we have access to 6 mana for Ajani next turn, but this seems like a fine window to resolve our Angel. I guess the argument for playing the Initiate there is if our opponent plays a Scarab God, we want to have access to Ajani to exile it right away, while this potentially gives our opponent a turn to activate the Scarab God. Instead it's another Aetherborn. No attacks from Gonti. That works. And here I actually think I like Growing Rites into Initiate, since if this doesn't get countered, we're definitely gonna get to transform our Initiate. Instead, our opponent does have the Negate, in which case I'm just gonna Attune here, since I don't want to use the last counter on the Initiate to run out another Initiate, and get a Forest, and we can play that out as well. And I think we just say go. Could run out the last Initiate, I suppose, but this seems fine. So if they don't kill Initiate, we'll have access to Ajani next turn, or we can just run out Tishana if we draw land. Opponent does get in for 4, that's fine. We get to untap. Alright, so a lot of options here. Opponent is holding up 4 mana, which could involve Essence Scatters or Negates. So I don't think we want to expose Ajani to another Negate. So I would rather run out the Growing Rites first, and then we can run out another mana creature as well. Growing Rites resolves. Opponent's gonna kill it in response, that's fine. Still get some value out of it, find a Servant, and we get to attack with everyone here and play out a Servant. That seems fine. So we still don't know what the opponent got off of their Gonti. Could be a Tishana, but they don't have enough mana to cast it. Instead looks like it was an Angel of Invention, which is not bad. But we will get to cast our Tishana here. Opponent gets in with both. We'll take it. Another Initiate to draw, but let's just draw a bunch of cards here. We haven't made our land drop yet, so we can do that. I guess we could have cast Attune with Aether here. I am fine trading Angels. I think we'll keep the Servos on defense, but the Angel I'm fine trading. Opponent at 18. Rogue Refiner, that's fine. And another Aetherborn. Opponent with 2 cards left in hand. And they're just gonna play defense, which is exactly where we want them to be. So I guess we can attack with Tishana first. And the Angel also can attack. Opponent trades. That's fine. Let's just draw more cards. Alright. Pause the turn. We haven't found another Growing Rites yet. There's a Vraska Relic Seeker. Can kill our Tishana. We also haven't found any other Angels of Invention, and our opponent actually is going to kill our Angel instead of the Tishana here. Let's make some trades here. Keep our Tishana. Take 3. Draw Rogue Refiner. So let's go to combat, attack Vraska with both creatures. Opponent can double block or initiate with the 2 servos, but that's fine. Opponent lets Vraska go. And in our second main phase we can Sram's Expertise, put a Rogue Refiner in play. Still haven't found more Growing Rites, so let's just play 2 more mana creatures here. And then next turn we'll probably Ajani to take care of the Angel finally. Alright, our opponent scoops it up. So we got there. Sweet. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.